Hello everyone, this is part 1 of What If Naruto Was the Hidden Uchiha, and this story is made by that crazy Brit 94, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
The Yondaime is here. Everyone continue, shouted a random Jonin on the front. Now although this sounds like someone is invading the Hidden Leaf Village, you're wrong, not someone. Something. Kyuubi appeared in the middle of the village less than 20 minutes ago and has been destroying things ever since, and no one has been able to stop it. Konoha's last chance stands with the fourth Hokage and whatever plan he has. Kuchio's no jutsu was heard above all else on the battlefield. Even the mighty Kyuubi stopped his rampage for a second to see what happened. There on top of the chief of the Toad's head Gamabunta was Minato Namikaze with a child in his hands. No one heard what he was saying to the child, but they saw the child, and this is where we start our story. Kyuubi, I know you escaped my wife and she is dying. That is not your fault. However, if you continue this line of attack even after I broke the person controlling you, then I will have no choice but to end this. Leave now and live in peace. ROAAARRRRR, came the reply from the giant fox. So be it, Gamabunta, hold him down so I can seal him. No verbal acknowledgement was needed between the two. They were the perfect team. One knew what the other was doing before they had done it, a skill rarely seen to this day within the shinobi world. Gamabunta jumped high into the sky and fired several water bullets aimed at stalling the great beast just long enough for him to land on top of him to hold him for what was needed for what was to come. Today was a sad day indeed. Minato, who was already speeding through hand seals with his son on top of the ceremonial pillar that is used for sealing, shouted, "Shiki Fujin!" All of a sudden he felt cold and could feel death crawling over him. He turned his head slightly to see an image of the Shinigami. "Why have you summoned me, mortal?" Careful about his choice of words, knowing everyone was listening and not wanting to give his son's identity away, yet he stated, "Shinigami-sama, I want you to seal half of Kyuubi's chakra within you, and then I will seal the rest with the 8 trigram seal I designed for him. It shall be done, but the cost is your soul. Do you want to proceed?" "Yes, Shinobi of Konoha, you will treat this boy like the hero he is for what I am about to burden him with. Sakami, help me. If I find out you denied my last wish, I will come back from the dead and slaughter you all." Everyone paled listening to this, but already made their minds up to ignore this wish. This child must have been born a demon to contain a demon, they thought. Idiot's logic. The Shinigami reached down and pushed his hand through Minato's chest and reached out towards the Biju, grabbing half of its chakra. It visibly shrank in size to about half the height it was, and a loud cheer went through the crowd as they watched their Hokage seal half its chakra. "Wow, what chakra!" Walking over to the infant, he placed his hand on his stomach and shouted, "Haka no Fuin Shiki." "There, it's done. Sleep well, child, for soon you will be needed. I trust none other than you to hold this beast, and one day you shall find out why." He leaned down into the child's ear and whispered, "For you are my son. Who else would a father trust with a burden such as this?" As soon as those last words were uttered, he fell down dead, with the Sandaime Hokage arriving on the scene just after. Everyone return home, take the injured to the hospitals and the homeless to the temporary housing. "I am reinstated as the Hokage," he said as picking the child up, shunshing to his office, which was still intact if a little shaken. Sandaime Hokage was placing the child within his crib. He of course knew who this child was. Not some orphan off the street as the crowd was led to believe, but the son of a Kage. He was born to be great. Minato left specific instructions regarding his newborn son, who was named Naruto Uzumaki. He was to be left with the Uzumaki name and not told who his parents were until certain circumstances were met. Either he unlocks his bloodline, which they weren't entirely sure if he had it or not, or he reaches the rank of Chunin with a certain amount of missions that meant he was ready for the assassins that were sure to come. Just as he finished placing Naruto in his crib, he felt the night breeze through the window, and he could have sworn he heard someone speaking on the wind that sounded an awfully lot like, "Protect my son, for he is destined for greatness, or greatness will be thrust upon him." A lone tear rolled down his cheek as he swore to protect Naruto the best he could. Magical ninja time skip. 5 years. If the past 5 years could be described in the word by either Naruto or the Sandaime Hokage, then that word would be hell. The Hokage did the best he could, but the civilians and most of the ninja were persistent and ignorant, or the child's burden. Civilians would either throw him out of their stores or let him shop, but overprice him by at least 3 times as much, and the sad thing was because of the civilian council they had every right to, because the shops were civilian owned. He couldn't do a thing. It got so bad that the only thing he could do was place a law forbidding anyone from speaking of his condition. He realized that he was basically turned into a figurehead, so to speak. The civilian council wrestled a lot of power from the Hokage and Shinobi Council before he could officially retake his former post after his predecessor's deaths. The worst part of this was quite simple. He looked to Naruto like he was his own grandson. He saw greatness in his eyes behind his mask of stupidity that he put up to fool the civilians, but he couldn't fool a man who had been through 3 wars and survived countless battles. No, he had his father genius alright, but he couldn't use it because the foolish villagers would rather a stupid demon than a smart one, but all was going to change tonight. Yes, tonight would be one of the last times anyone would see this stupid Naruto trying to gain attention from anyone and everyone. Naruto was a smart boy. He picked things up at an abnormal rate. He learned to read and write by himself because those fools at the orphanage sabotaged him. He learned to count like a normal child of his age and even knew that they hated him for some reason. Why? He had no idea, but he was pretty sure that he was the Jinchuriki for the Kyuubi no Kitsune. You see, Naruto was regularly attacked by the villagers, and around his 3rd birthday was one of his worst attacks yet. If they caught him, he was sure to die, but somehow he found himself running quicker than any civilian should be able to. He later learned that he unlocked his chakra by accident, and by experimenting with it found out that he could use it to augment his muscles, meaning he could run faster than normal and hit harder. At a later date he found out that there was a seal on his stomach. He knew it was a seal because it only showed up when he molded his chakra, meaning it was chakra related and not some tattoo. Even at his age he could tell the complicated seals from the novice ones, a rather unique gift if you could say, and he could tell that this was a rather advanced seal for something. Using all his stealth he had gained over his short life running from mobs and ninja, he snuck into the library to look at some sealing books. He couldn't find anything like his seal, but he could find some knowledge on some unique individuals that had massive chakra beasts sealed within them known as Jinchuriki. From that point on it was easy to fit the evidence together. The whispers of demon behind his back, and the day he was born the village was attacked by the Kyuubi, which happened to be a Biju. He was born and the 4th Hokage sealed the beast into a child. He could already tell that he didn't pick any child. The corresponding looks from father to son were too much to ignore. He knew that his father had done this to him, but he forgave him, simply because it was to protect his precious people. After all, what father could ask for another child for such a burden when he couldn't give his own, and who could he trust more than his own flesh and blood? No one. Today was his 5th birthday. Acting the fool unfortunately meant he had to act happy about today and walk around outside in front of the villagers, basically mocking them. The villagers didn't take too kindly to this, and every birthday formed some sort of mob to finish what the Yondaime started, which meant trying to kill Naruto. Naruto knew he would be alright. The pain may come and go, but he would live. Kyuubi wouldn't allow his host to die from something like this, as he found out early on. He had a very advanced healing factor which he deduced was a side effect of the sealing. It allowed the village an outlet which stopped them more or less from attacking him every week. He would deal with this. He was a forgiving person who tried to see the best in people like his father did, but sometimes there just isn't enough to see. Naruto made his way through the village, strangely not getting attacked yet. This worried him, but he carried on and eventually made his way to the Hokage's monument, sitting atop his father's head looking at the night sky that was slowly starting to form with bright stars. He let a lone tear fall down his cheek as he thought of his life among the Hidden Leaf village. He could technically leave, but he wouldn't make it far. No matter how smart you are, no village will let their Jinchuriki leave. Their tools of war. Without the tools, wars would be lost. He had no idea the Sandaime was watching him the entire time with an Anbu squad on standby to save the poor boy if needed. He stared at the night sky and was entranced by its beauty. After a while he spoke quietly to the sky. You know, San, ever since you thrust this burden upon me I've been beaten, starved, poisoned and God knows what else. I was born for greatness. From you I have your looks and your genius. I endure because no one else would. I live because I endure, and I endure to protect my precious people. It is a vicious cycle that I'm not sure will ever end, but it must. Sooner or later they will either kill me or I will kill them, defending myself, and the village shall turn on me in spite of what I have done for them. Sandaime was watching shocked. This boy was wise beyond his years and knew about his father. He could technically demand his inheritance and there would be nothing he could do about it, but before he could think any more he heard him continue his thought line. You know, when I was younger I asked the Sandaime if he knew why I was hated, a rare glimpse of my genius showing through my mask of stupidity. He lied to my face and said he didn't know, but I forgave him like I forgave you because he was trying his best to make my life livable. He told me a story instead, something to get my mind off the question. It didn't work, but it gave me something to think about in my spare time. He looked up at the sky and said, "The stars above shine bright and protect us. They are the lives of the shinobi and Hokage past that have given their lives for the village's security and peace. When we die, someone will always be hurt. To this day that has to be my favorite saying he has ever told me. It is true, he is wise for his age. When I die no star shall shine for me. I am a weapon of war to be disposed of like a kunai dropped on a battlefield. The cycle has to change soon or I fear I will join you." He let another tear stain his cheek while looking off into the distance and saw a glowing light which could be made out to be a mob of civilians with torches. He gave a sad smile. "Time for my beating. Hopefully I survive this, but if not then I shall see you soon, father." The Hokage was shocked. This 5-year-old boy, no, this 5-year-old young man was willing to let them kill him for the sake of the village. He wouldn't have any of that as long as he lived. Anbu. A team of 4 appeared before him: cat, dog, lizard and crow. Yugao Azuki, Kakashi Hatake, Genma Shiranui, and finally a new recruit that was quickly rising through the ranks, Itachi Uchiha. "Yes sir. A mob is about to attack Naruto Uzumaki. You are to make sure he survives. He is on top of the 4th head on the Hokage mountain. Kill every civilian if needed to ensure his survival. The cycle changes tonight." He shouted the last bit whilst sounding incredibly sad. "Hi Hokage-sama," they said in unison. The Hokage slumped back into his chair watching through the crystal ball whilst trying to justify his lack of intervention within the boy's life. "What have I done? Sure, I treat him like he's my own grandchild, but it's not enough. I'm sorry Minato." The Hokage watched as Naruto waited. His Anbu would arrive soon, but it would be too late. This year everything changes. Naruto waited on top of the 4th head for the mob to reach him. His face impassive suddenly changed to an unmatched smile that was hard to tell if fake, signifying his mask was in position. They arrived shouting at him. That's when he realized his mistake. Past birthdays he would lead them on a chase to thin the mob, but this year, he was stuck in between a cliff and an angry mob. He was screwed. "Looks like I'm coming to you sooner than expected too, San. Hi. Do you want to play with me?" He said, acting like an idiot, hoping they would feel sorry for him and not attack. Unfortunately this was not to be. "No demon. You will die tonight, for our family and for the Yondaime." He shouted, and thus the beating began, worse than usual. He felt several rib crack as they kicked him. He spat up a little blood whilst the Sandaime watched, appalled by his village. He couldn't help but wonder where his Anbu were. It was too late. A villager decided he was going to be the one to end the demon, but to do so he was going to be pushed off the cliff. With no ninja training this was a sure death for anyone. The Sandaime visibly shouted in anger as he watched his surrogate grandson fall to his death. On his way down, Naruto already accepted his fate. He could see the Anbu team arriving on scene to see him fall down, but it was too late. They couldn't possibly reach him in time to save him. He was going to die, and the Kyuubi's wrath would be brought upon these fools when the seal breaks. He smiled in the face of death, but that didn't mean he wasn't scared. No, he was petrified. Time seemed to slow down as his vision became clearer but changed to black and white. He thought of the irony of this situation. Just as he was about to die, something happened to hasten his perception of time so he could spend longer falling to his death. Kami must hate me. He closed his eyes again only to feel pain as he hit the ground. He was blacking out when he heard his name being called by a silver-haired Anbu. He closed his eyes for what he thought was the last time. Inside his seal, Biju was silently weeping for the prone form of the boy in front of him, cursing Madara for forcing her to attack and get sealed into this boy, forcing upon him this life. Then something happened. 2 eyes opened floating in the sky, showing a pair of 2 Tomoe Sharingan blazed to life, and he visibly flinched before they shut themselves again. The Biju looked down at his contained and laughed. He would live. He was meant for greatness, and this would be the first step. Meanwhile, Kakashi was rushing the poor boy to hospital whilst his team was slaughtering the civilians. Each of his team was selected for this boy's guard because they all knew who he was and had some ties to his father or mother. Kakashi was his father's student. Genma was part of his father's personal guard. Yuga was his mother's student, a kenjutsu prodigy, and finally Itachi was just smart enough to figure out who the boy was and treat him like a brother. Oh, the irony that would be coming his way. Kakashi arrived at the hospital with the broken boy in his arms panting, "I need a doctor." He shouted. Each came, but when they saw the boy they left until Kakashi grabbed on by the neck and threatened him, "I don't care if you don't like him, you will heal him, and so God help me if he dies you will spend the rest of your life in a wheelchair being fed through a straw by your family." The doctor hurriedly agreed to heal the boy. After all, everyone knew who this Anbu was. What happened to him? He got chucked off a cliff. Even though the doctor hated the boy, even he felt that was cruel and visibly recoiled at the answer, "You're joking." No. Running a diagnostic jutsu on the boy to check his injuries, he was amazed that the boy was still alive. He has several broken bones and a fractured skull, not to mention internal bleeding and signs of a lot more that was recently healed. "Do what you can for him and be quick about it," he snapped whilst thanking Kami that the demon healed most of his container's wounds. As he was healing the boy, the Sandaime Hokage rushed through the door and had an angered look on his face. "Kakashi, what the hell kept you from getting there in time? You left 5 minutes before it happened. You're a ninja for Kami's sakes." "Sir, my team was held up by a team of 20 ninja that had blank face masks like Anbu. All are dead. We didn't have time to take a prisoner." "Danzo. He will pay for this, maybe not today or tomorrow, but he will pay." "How is the boy?" "He is healing at an extraordinary rate even for him. I don't know why." "No use explaining why. He is unpredictable and most likely has nothing to do with it, but no point looking a gift horse in the mouth." "Kakashi, I need to talk to you outside. Doctor, keep healing him and don't stop." Kakashi followed his leader outside into the hall where he took his time to explain, obviously under a silencing barrier, what Naruto had said earlier. Kakashi was obviously shaken by the boy and his genius, but visibly disturbed when he was told how Naruto smiled in the face of death. No one, not even veteran Anbu operatives, smile looking death in the eyes. It's just not natural. Whilst they were discussing this, a shockwave of chakra shot out of Naruto, covering him in the potent chakra. Inside the seal, Naruto was beginning to stir when he realized he felt no pain and groaned as he tried to move his stiff muscles. He opened his eyes and looked up, but almost immediately noticed he was in a sewer. Great, the Shinigami's stomach is a sewer, who would have thought? He heard laughing from behind him and turned around to see a giant nine-tailed fox. They stared at each other for a couple of minutes before Naruto broke the silence. "Sup. This and that. Some interesting things recently though. So, I can't be dead since you're here, which would most likely mean I was hurt so badly that I entered the seal on my stomach with my consciousness." "Pretty much. At least you aren't stupid." "Thanks, I guess. So anyway, I can change this dreary place to something a bit more hospitable." The QB just shrugged whilst watching his container closely. In truth, he knew how to change it. Seriously, what 1,000-year-old demon didn't? But this was a test for him. Naruto just sighed whilst concentrating. He was going to take a shot in the dark here. Immediately the sewer was replaced by a valley with long grass and a forest on the horizon, a lake off to the right whilst a house in the center with a park bench in the garden. Naruto just smirked. "That's better." He looked at the wide-eyed QB whilst snickering to himself and thought about something. "If I somehow let you out of the cage, you aren't going to try to eat me or something, right?" QB just stared at him for a minute before nodding, not trusting himself to answer. "Cool." And just like that, the cage was gone whilst a collar with a paper tag, which was the seal, was in its place. "There you go. I know living in me hasn't been the best, but you might as well enjoy what you can. That's it. No questions. Not wanting to know why I attacked or anything. Not even your parents. Why did you attack? And I know about my father, I mean seriously. Who the fuck doesn't notice a look-alike? But you can tell me about my mother if you want." Long story short, I was forced to attack after being ripped out of my previous container, who happens to be one of your mothers, and she died obviously because of the birthing, but also because me being ripped out of her. I was forced to attack by Madara Uchiha, somehow still alive, but how I don't know. Well, that sucks. Wait, hold the phone. Did you say mothers as in plural, as in I have two? How the fuck did that happen? Well, considering you're quite smart, I'll skip the bird and the bees and go straight to it. Having me and your mother with a seal that wasn't the correct type for her because it was rushed when I was being transferred to her from the previous container. Mito Uzumaki made her, for a better choice of words, barren. Will that happen to me? Will I be able to have kids when I'm older? Yes, your seal was also rushed, but it was designed with a lot of time beforehand. When your father found out she was pregnant, he always looked ahead in these types of things. Smart man. Okay, carry on. Well, you see, it goes like this. Just because she couldn't conceive a child didn't mean she couldn't give birth to one. Mikoto Uchiha, your mother's best friend, donated an egg and it was implanted within Kushina. Your parents went and got down and dirty, and her you are. The beast smirked at his disgusted face of his parents having sex. So which one is my real mother? I would say both. One allowed conception whilst the other allowed birth. You also have a few perks from this, believe it or not. Like, well, first, earlier on tonight when you noticed time slow down, it wasn't Kami messing with you, it was your Sharingan awaking. Cool, he screamed like his masked self. Yes, however, a combination of having me in you and betrayal from the village left you with an advanced form called the Mangekyo Sharingan, but beware, each time you use this you will lose a portion of your eyesight until you are truly blind. Also cool but not cool at the same time. Don't worry, eventually your half-brother Itachi will awaken his and then you swap eyes and boom, you will never go blind and it will use less chakra. How do you know so much about this? I kind of created it a couple hundred years ago when Madara team woke me from my sleep. He was a Hyuga branch member and wanted to be free of his curse seal. At the time I was still a bit groggy from sleep and thought, hey, what the hell, and used my chakra to mutate the Byakugan into the Sharingan. Sort of made a small mistake though when I mutated it too much and it awakened a curse for the dojutsu. Well, that's good and bad. Good. I got an awesome dojutsu. Bad that I'm cursed. Not really. Having my chakra go through your eyes when I was healing you earlier sort of made it disappear. Anyway, the curse is simple. When one of them watched someone they love get hurt, they will do anything for power to help that person survive, hence they are rather known as power hungry. Goddamn it, that means Mikoto Ka and Itachi are going to be power hungry. Not really, I've seen few that rise above the curse and they both are two of them. By the way, when you have kids, even if it's with another Uchiha, your DNA will overwrite this ending the curse. Okay, anyway, what's your name? I mean, it can't be Kyubi. Kyubi looked slightly offended at this and sighed. Hikari. So you're a chick? Yes. She expected him to burst out laughing here and gave him an odd look when he did no such thing. What? Aren't you going to laugh? No. Why? Why should I? Every time I've ever told anyone my name and or gender, they laughed at me. Why? I know plenty of powerful women. Who? The kunoiki of this village for one. Well, not the fangirls, but you get the idea. Touché. Anyway, I'm going to take a nap under that tree where the sunlight is shining just perfectly because this is my mind, and maybe wake up in the hospital later and see one of my mothers after that. Hikari just nodded and left him to his own devices. Naruto was laying in his hospital bed while a squad of Anbu walked into the room with the Hokage, Crow. Yes, sir. Please get your mother, it's time for some truths to come out. Itachi raised an eyebrow from behind his mask and nodded before shunshining home to pick up his mother. 20 seconds later she was there with Itachi looking rather annoyed. Crow, did you wait for your mother or did you grab her and shunshin here? Itachi kept very quiet and shrunk into the corner under his mother's gaze. What can I do for you, Hokage-sama? Hiruzen and Mikoto had always gotten on well because unlike most Uchiha she wasn't born with the holier-than-thou attitude of the rest of the clan, and they both knew Minato and Kushina, which was also a plus. Mikoto was a 29-year-old woman who didn't look a day over 20, she was 5'7", quite tall for women nowadays, wore a battle kimono because while she was a retired shinobi she kept up with her training and was ready for anything, and had perky C-cup breasts with long purple hair and coal-black eyes, the eyes of an Uchiha. It's time for some truth to come out. Anbu, keep guard of this room. No one is to come in. Itachi, stay and remove your mask. All the Anbu nodded and did as they were told before Itachi removed his mask. Putting up a silencing barrier, he took a deep breath and decided to start. Mikoto, what I'm about to tell you is going to make you hate me, but it was in Minato's will the same as Kushina's. Naruto is your son. Wide eyes, an immediate reaction. This was big, this was huge. This boy here who the villagers vilified and abused physically and physiologically was her son and Itachi's brother. How? Well, remember when Kushina asked you for that favor when she was trying to have a kid? Well, Naruto is that child. You told me he died. As I said, it is in their wills to tell you this. I wasn't meant to tell you until he was either Chunin or if by chance he unlocked your bloodline, but with his eyes blue instead of black we thought that would never happen. Why are you telling me now? Well, I heard him earlier today sitting on top of his father's head. He knows everything except who his mothers are, he figured it out himself. He has his father's genius but acts like a fool to let the villagers have an outlet. Of course I didn't know this until tonight when the villagers cornered him on the mountain and violently beat him before chucking him off the cliff. That's not the most disturbing bit of it, he actually smiled as he was falling, like someone who didn't care. She was now in tears, what was technically her son as well as Kushina's was being beaten like this, she never knew. She had tried to adopt this boy several times because she saw him on the streets and her motherly instincts kicked in for some reason, but now she knew why. I heard the wisest saying I've ever heard from a civilian from him earlier today. He was sitting on the mountain looking up at the stars talking to his father. He talked about how his father thrust this burden upon him yet how he forgave him, and then it came. He said something I will never forget. I endure because no one else would. I live because I endure, and I endure to protect my precious people. It is a vicious cycle that I'm not sure will ever end, but it must. Itachi was normally a pacifist, not really shinobi material, but he knew how to kill. He was trained to kill, he was trained to be a weapon for his clan, but today he found out he had a little brother and was truly happy. This saying though, it made him shed a tear for the first time in years. His little brother was already so strong, strong enough to endure his life alone without him or his mother. Mikoto openly cried and hugged the sleeping form of Naruto whilst crying into his chest. This continued for another 10 minutes until Naruto began to stir. Mikoto jumped off her newly found son and watched him begin to wake until he started screaming. He opened his eyes to show the world his two Tomoe Sharingan, earning a gasp from the crowd, but he wasn't done. His Sharingan morphed into something rarely seen within the Uchiha clan, a Mangekyo Sharingan, a three-pointed triangle which curved inwards whilst the center of the triangle merged into a hexagon around a pupil. After a few minutes of screaming and being held down, he stopped and breathed a sigh of relief as the pain disappeared. He looked around the room and saw one of his Anbu guards with a strange woman that he has never met, but also the Hokage. He stared at them for a minute before saying, "Sup." They were all still staring at his new eyes and ignored him. "Why are you staring at me?" Ignored still, he started to get annoyed. "Quit it." He saw them staring at him still and they seemed to be looking at his eyes. He felt some chakra drain, which meant his Sharingan was active, so he cut the chakra and everyone suddenly snapped back to attention. Mikoto rushed him and hugged him tightly, hoping that he was real. She squeezed until he let out a pained yelp and suddenly let go, fearing she might hurt her son. "Not that I don't appreciate the hug, but who are you?" "I know Itachi from behind the mask, even if he doesn't think I do, and the Hokage, but you." She took a deep breath and said, "I'm your mother." He promptly fainted. They all laughed. 5 minutes later and he was back up and was rubbing his head. "I could have sworn you said you were my mother." "I did. So you must be Mikoto Uchiha." They all looked surprised by this. "Yes. How did you know?" Well, Kyuubi could see Kushina Ka through the seal when she asked for your favor, and I also have the Sharingan and Mangekyo. By the way, did you know my mindscape was a sewer? That just wasn't cool. They all stared at him blankly. "What? How long have you known about me?" "Since I got knocked the fuck out and met Kyuubi. Nice girl once you get past the 50 feet tall thing." His stomach growled and he sighed. "She's moaning about being called tall." He grinned as he continued, "About Kyuubi being sealed inside me. And my father. Since I was 3. They were all shocked. "How?" was the only word they got out. Let's start from left to right here. From being called a demon to my face and my birthday, not to mention the big ass seal on my stomach when I mold chakra, it was pretty easy to figure out, and from there I looked in the mirror and saw the resemblance, not to mention what kind of father takes someone else's kid whilst not giving up his own. Now Gigi, I want my inheritance. This includes all scrolls, house and money, because I'm actually tired of pretending to be a god-forsaken idiot. It's only taken 2 years for them to almost kill me, so I'm going to better protect myself." He raised an eyebrow but nodded with one question. "Since when can you mold chakra?" "Somewhere around my 3rd birthday I was being chased by the biggest mob to date and I was sure I was going to die, but for some reason I started to feel warm and running quicker. I paid no attention to it at the time. Later I discovered I unlocked and molded my chakra towards my feet to help me run faster, and boom. You know I can't adopt you, right, Naruto?" Mikoto said, much to the shock of both Itachi and the Hokage. "I know, a Jinchuriki from a clan would overpower said clan, but also I get the feeling your husband wouldn't be too happy." She nodded. Fugaku never liked Minato or Kushina, he was a candidate for 4th Hokage along with Orochimaru. If I adopted you he would use you as a weapon, but I can help you. Whilst I can't make up for the years I wasn't a mother, I can try to be there for the future. He smiled, that was all he wanted. Itachi. Yes, Car-san. You're on Naruto's personal guard, right? Hi, Car-san. You're to train him from now on. Make sure he gets used to his Sharingan, but don't use the Mangekyo. Speaking of which, how do you have it? Would you believe me if a couple hundred years ago Madara Uchiha was a Hyuga and disturbed Kyuubi's sleep begging for her to mutate his eyes? Well, he did, and with her sealed inside me combined with the feeling of betrayal I had earlier activated it. Also, I don't have the dojutsu curse that the rest of the Uchiha have, nor do you or Itachi. She made a mistake when mutating his eyes or something and cursed the dojutsu. The people who see a friend hurt or in danger become power hungry to help said friend. I don't have it because she removed it, and she said something about a 1 in 100 chance of not having the curse in your eyes, so congratulations. I'm not sure if you have any brothers or sisters, Itachi, so they might have it, sorry. Itachi just shook his head and replied, I have an adopted brother, of course he thinks he is real and I treat him like my real brother, but he is my cousin. His parents died in the Kyuubi attack, so mother took him in. Naruto nodded and smiled at his mother, a true smile, and couldn't help smile in return. Anyway, get him physically fit before taijutsu training. Make sure he learns our style, but also his father's, which I'm sure is part of his inheritance. Teach him a few basic jutsu for each element and make sure he understands that the Sharingan is only a tool, not a crutch. No son of mine is going to be dependent like that. Check if he is a genjutsu type as well, Itachi. If so, I will leave that training up to you because I'm not that type of shinobi and you are. Itachi nodded. All this time they didn't know that the Hokage had sent a shadow clone to his office except Naruto, who caught the hand seal. It came back through the door with a scroll. Naruto blinked. Old man, I think I might have done something. He raised an eyebrow and noticed his Sharingan was active by accident. My chakra control isn't the best at the moment due to my huge amounts, so I kept my Sharingan active to see if I can better it, and I might have caught your hand seal for that jutsu. It feels weird, like I know it. Hiruzen nodded sagely. That's fine, you copied it with your Sharingan. One of the perks of it. I was going to give it to Itachi to teach you anyway with your high chakra capacity and all. He nodded and turned off his Sharingan. I don't like this, it will mean I copy from anyone and everyone. I don't want to copy from teammates and allies. Everyone present smiled. He was already getting the idea without them explaining it. That's my boy, Mikoto said in a proud voice. Copying from allies without permission can be a pain, but he gave you permission, so don't worry. Hiruzen was rather proud of the boy at the moment despite what had happened recently. He handed Naruto the scroll and explained that he needed to bite his thumb and wipe blood over the seal to open the scroll. It was his inheritance from his father and Kushina. Opening the scroll, the first thing that dropped out was a letter. He picked it up and began reading out loud. Naruto. My son, how I am sad whilst writing this letter. Your mother is currently in labor trying her best to bring you into this world whilst the Kyuubi no Kitsune is on a collision course with Konoha. The fox was sealed inside your mother, but during the childbirth someone attacked and ripped it out of the seal. Instead of running like it should have, it started to attack, which leads me to believe it was being controlled. I'm going to seal it into you. Ye so not getting Father of the Year award anytime soon. A few teardrops stained the paper here. You may hate me, but know that I love you. I leave to you several things. My house, which is protected by so many seals it makes the Hokage's vault look like a drawer with a lock for one. Inside you will find my jutsu library. Hiraishin and my Rasengan are hidden in there somewhere. I'm not making it easy for you. You will not grow up spoiled, but on the plus side I did apply resistance seals to you as you were just born and made them automatically adjust, so they should be rather high at the moment. Ask the Hokage how to disengage them. My bank account details are with the Hokage, which should be Sarutobi at the moment. Your godfather is Jiraiya of the Sennin. I leave one last thing to you, my son. A summoning contract, the Crow contract. They are perfect messengers and are good at ambushing enemy. Sign it, and when Jiraiya arrives, he should have been with you all along, but let's be realistic here. Sign the Gama contract and they will allow you to summon both as long as the bosses agree. Also kick your godfather in the nuts for me. Love, your horrible father, who happens to be the most happy man in the world at the moment because you were just born. Minito Namikaze. Yondaime Hokage of Konohagakure no Sato. Naruto smiled and laughed at his father's antics even though he was about to die. Before anyone could comment on the letter, another one dropped out. Hi, me again. Just because I am finished leaving you stuff doesn't mean your mother hasn't left you anything. She is too weak to write you a letter at the moment, so I'm sealing the stuff for her and writing this quickly. She left you 2 chakra sabers that she had made with Azu metal for you. No time to explain what Azu metal is, so ask the Hokage. In the scroll is a Kenjutsu style for dual sabers. If you need any help, ask Kakashi Hatake. He was my student and had a chakra saber from his father known as the White Fang. He might be rusty, but it will help you learn. Once again, we both love you and enjoy your life. Your mother tells me to tell you to find a nice girl to settle down with and enjoy the pleasures of a family, and she's sorry. Love your parents. Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki Namikaze. Everyone was silent for a moment before Mikoto commented, "That's just like Minato, humor in the face of death." She smiled. "Old man, how long am I in hospital for? You're free to go, you were healed at a miraculous rate even for you, so you're all healed. I want to check out my new house, will you, Mikoto-ka and Itachi come with me?" Mikoto hugged him into her chest and smiled at being called mother, whilst Itachi kept his now stoic demeanor, but on the inside he was happy, finally a proper brother. He wasn't going to stop acting like a brother towards Sasuke because that was they were in his eyes, but with Naruto it was actual blood. All 3 nodded and he jumped out of bed, not noticing he was only in his boxes. He heard snickering and saw Itachi in the corner and a red-faced Mikoto. He looked down and saw he was in his boxes and just smacked his head. Well, this is awkward. He just carried right on getting dressed, not really caring he was too smart to be embarrassed by something as small as this. He went over to the scroll and looked in the slot named keys and channeled a bit of chakra into it, and out came a set of keys and a map to his new home. Appears it's behind the Hokage's monument in the forest away from town. That's good for me, I do like some privacy. Itachi nodded and grabbed his new little brother and mother and shunshed to the top of the Hokage's monument and was joined a second later by Hiruzen. Map says it's protected by Genjutsu seals. Only I or he could find it unless you know where to go beforehand. He walked off into the distance with them following him and carried on down a path into what looked like a cave. This is a Genjutsu seal to look like a cave. Whatever you do, walk straight forward even if it's dark and you will arrive past the seals. No one could see, but each nodded their heads and continued straight, soon walking through what seemed like a dead end of the cave. When they reached the end, they come upon a wooden gate that appeared normal but was covered in seals and an 11 feet high brick wall that looked like it was built yesterday. Naruto whistled. Impressive gate. They nodded, agreeing with him. He looked at the map for instructions and did as it said. I have to cut my hand on the gate and then apply chakra to the swirl by the gate to change its locking feature to my chakra signature. They heard a click, and the gate opened, revealing a rather well-kept garden. Well, this is odd. Anyone been here? None have been here since Minato. I didn't even know where it was. He chuckled. He was a secretive bastard. Tell me about it. I wonder why the garden looks so kept. Probably got too lazy and invented some seal to preserve the garden in some way. I wonder if the training grounds are like that. Let's hope so. Itachi said, thinking about the fun he was going to have torturing his little brother. Naruto shivered for some reason. He couldn't tell, but he thought it was something to do with the smirk and gleam in Itachi's eyes. Oh boy, I'm screwed. Exploring the rest of the house, they noticed that it was all rather clean and well kept. It was a 2-story house but had several bedrooms, a living and dining area with an outside onsen for the summer and a downstairs bathroom. One of the bedrooms was converted to a small armory. Naruto openly gawked at his new home. It was better than any he had lived in before. He smiled at the portrait in the hallway of a several months pregnant Kushina and Minato with his arm wrapped around her protectively. The others came up behind him and smiled as well. They went outside to check the training grounds out back and found a large field that was covered with several dummies and logs, all with the same seals as before. Somehow I think I'm going to like it here. Mikoto and Itachi smiled. It was getting pretty late now, about 11 at night, and after all the excitement today they were all pretty tired. I think I'm going to crash on some bed upstairs. You're welcome to stay if you want. Sorry Sochi, I can't, I need to get back to the house so Fugaku doesn't moan. Ototo, I have Anbu duty to finish. The Hokage has granted me leave starting tomorrow. I will be here with you to train you away from prying eyes, and mother can check on us when she wants. Same and the Hokage. Okay Ni-san. Naruto didn't notice Itachi's lips curve into a small smile and Mikoto openly smiled at the exchange. She knew how Itachi always wanted a little brother, but she didn't want another child with Fugaku for him to turn into a weapon or a Min Fugaku, which Sasuke was becoming. Their marriage was slowly falling apart. Fair enough, it was an arranged marriage to help the family become stronger, and she was technically the clan head but didn't like the clan head business. She would take back the clan head seat one of these days and divorce that idiot. We'll be going then, get some sleep, tomorrow is going to be fun. Itachi walked off with a small evil laugh whilst the others shuddered. That laugh meant pain, as Naruto was going to find out tomorrow. Why do I suddenly feel the need to write a will? They both shook their heads. No idea, Sochi, Naruto. Before they left, Mikoto turned round and gave him a hug and said, I will give Itachi some cookies to give you tomorrow, since I doubt you can cook, and it will help tide you over till I come round in the evening helping you learn to cook. Hi Car-san. Good boy. She turned and left, leaving a very tired Naruto, who just walked upstairs and fell on his parents' bed fast asleep, all the while being watched over from above by smiling figures. In heaven. Kushina, our son is finally happy. Barker, he was sad because of you. Blame Madara team. She smacked him on the back of the head and smiled. Her son had a mother, and although it was not her, it was her best friend who technically counted as his mother. It was enough to make her happy. I don't know how I feel about earlier on the mountain, but I think he will get over it now. The question is, will the villagers? Nope. The next day, 7 o'clock. Naruto was sleeping peacefully, fully dressed after yesterday, when he felt someone drop something on him and hit him in the stomach. He jumped up straight away, gasping for air that was knocked out of his lungs. He looked towards the attacker, ready to strike back, but calmed down once he saw the amused look of Itachi in Anbu gear without his mask. Hello Ototo. Hello Ni-san, what time is it? 7 o'clock. Naruto got wide eyes. What in Kami's name made you wake me up at this time? Still amused, he responded, well, I thought I would let you lay in. He got no response, and Naruto just looked down at what hit him. It was a set of chakra waistbands that went round his wrists and adjusted the weight depending on the amount of chakra one puts through them. He raised an eyebrow. Seeing the unasked question, Itachi decided to elaborate. Just because you have had a resistance seal on you since birth is no reason to not try harder. Lesson 1. There is always someone better than you, so never stop training. He nodded and placed the weights on each wrist and leg. Good, now don't run chakra through them yet and follow me. He nodded once again and followed him out back to a big tree. Lesson 2. Power is nothing without control. You have raw power with your amount of chakra but no control. Learn control. Itachi seemed to grin. How? His grin threatened to split his face at this point in time. Climb this tree without your hands. Naruto stood there for a moment before thinking about what he was asked to do. It was obviously a chakra control exercise meant for larger chakra users such as himself, but he had to climb it without his hands, and if it involved chakra, then he guessed it used chakra to stick to the surface. Once asking Itachi if that was how it was done, he smiled, proud of his little brother. It seemed genius ran in his mother's side of the family. Naruto walked up to the tree and lay on the floor with his feet touching the tree. Itachi raised an eyebrow and watched his brother focus chakra to his feet by using the ram hand seal and step about a foot off the ground, and asked Itachi to time him for 5 minutes. He nodded. 5 minutes later, Itachi called for him to stop and asked what he had just done. His response was, I focus chakra to my feet to get a feel to how much it takes to stick to the tree for a period of time, so when I go to try again it should let me get quite far up the tree. Itachi blinked a couple of times before walking up to the tree and banging his head, muttering, Barker, 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 over and over again. Naruto just laughed. He motioned for Naruto to continue what he was doing before and walked up to the tree before walking 3/4 up the tree with a wide-eyed Itachi watching. That shouldn't be possible for him with that much chakra. Damn, when I did this it took 3 days to learn. Well fuck. Naruto, come down here. Naruto walked over to his brother and asked what he wanted. That jutsu you copied yesterday was called Shadow Clone. It is a physical clone with a chakra network and is very good for people with high amounts of chakra because they can train with them. The downside is that they dispel with one punch. Make as many as you can so I can see how many there are. Inside his seal, Hikari was just waking up and heard the conversation via their connection and laughed. This was going to be funny. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. The field was covered, actually covered in smoke, and Itachi couldn't believe his eyes. There had to be hundreds. 2 words summed up his expression. Holy shit. What? This is a kinjutsu because the chakra needed for it and you just made around 300 and are not winded at all. I'm just special. Everything they learn you learn, however never dispel them all at once. You will get brain damage that not even QB can fix. Yes sir, he mock saluted. Get working. I want tree walking and water walking done by the end of the day. Dispel 10 clones every 20 minutes to advance the clones. When complete come find me for water walking. The clones went about their business whilst Itachi sat watching his little brother's army. He was so proud of him already. He would make him strong enough to survive the world. 40 minutes later and 260 clones left. The original Naruto walked over to his brother. Finished and I have 260 clones left. Follow me for water walking. He walked away to a small pond and watched his brother walk out onto the water. Water walking is a constant stream of chakra to your feet all the time, but it has to be ready to change at a moment's notice if you are on a moving river. Naruto nodded and asked his brother to stay there for a second. He agreed and watched as Naruto quickly activated his Sharingan and looked at his feet, smiled and deactivated it. He jumped on the water and fell in up to his shins. His brother was once again surprised and asked what he did this time. The Sharingan is a tool in a ninja's arsenal. We use tools as and when we need them. I watched your chakra flow to your feet and adjusted it to my size and height to get a head start. Itachi smiled. His brother was going to go far. Create one clone and dispel it so the information is distributed to the rest and follow me, we need to talk. Nodding he did as asked and then followed his brother into the house. What type of ninja do you want to be? Naruto raised an eyebrow. He was smart but something like this escaped him. Itachi answered the eyebrow, there are different type of ninja. Examples are ninjutsu specialists or taijutsu specialists and sometimes even genjutsu specialists. Your father was a ninjutsu and fuinjutsu specialist. You will be learning fuinjutsu sometime, so don't worry. Naruto nodded about to answer when his eyes glazed over and heard a voice in his head. Naruto, it's Hikari, don't talk out loud, just think. Sup. Chose genjutsu and ninjutsu as primary with taijutsu and fuinjutsu as secondary. Why? I'm a fox. We are naturally good at genjutsu and I gave you a tiny present when you were knocked out yesterday. Call it a sorry for your life so far. What kind of present? The kind that will make you exceptional at genjutsu even though you have cage level reserves. Although you have to use your eyes. If you get used to using them you should be able to cast them without your Sharingan, also ninjutsu, because let's face it, you're a juggernaut with your reserves which will only grow with time. Fine. He looked at a worried Itachi and spoke. Sorry, QB was speaking to me. It's okay, what did she say? She said that she gave me a gift as a sorry for my life so far. I should be a great genjutsu user with the Sharingan and eventually without, but she told me to focus on ninjutsu and genjutsu but also on taijutsu, just not as much as the first two. I kind of like the idea of being a well-rounded shinobi like this. Itachi dumbly nodded with a shiver of excitement. His little broth, the next genjutsu prodigy after him, but also the reserves to blatantly spam ninjutsu all day long. Oh, his enemies were screwed. The reason I have you practicing chakra control so early is because the weights. I don't want you trying to put a little chakra in and end up wearing 2 tons. That wouldn't be funny. Your clones are going to practice chakra control for the rest of the day and this will happen for the next month just to get your control up to par, but whilst they do that you're going to work out to get your body ready for taijutsu. Oh, lesson number 3. Ninjutsu and genjutsu are useless unless you have the body to dodge and pursue enemies, which is where practicing taijutsu comes in. Naruto nodded and Itachi pulled out a scroll with his training regime and smiled evilly. It read. 5 o'clock to 6 a.m., wake up, shower and breakfast. 6 o'clock to 7 a.m., warm up laps around the compound, send out 300 clones for chakra control. 7 o'clock to 12 p.m., physical workout, 250 push-ups, sit-ups, crunches and 5 laps round the compound. Repeat 7 to 12 until time is up. 12 p.m. to 1 p.m., lunch time, no ramen. 1 p.m. to 3 p.m., strategy games such as Shugi with brother and reading history books where said strategies were implemented and how they worked and if they were effective at the time for the situation. 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. cooking class with Car-san. 5 p.m. dispel clones. 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. dinner. 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. relax and or sleep depending on how tired you are. He looked up from the scroll and saw an evil gleam in his eye. Has anyone ever told you that when you are about to train me you get an evil gleam in your eye that screams torture? Nope. Well, you do. Well, leave your clones working, we are going to get rid of the god-awful jumpsuit of yours and get you some real clothes. Itachi pulled out a scroll and unsealed his mask and placed it on his head. You came dressed in Anbu gear to take me clothes shopping. That's pretty smart. You aren't the only genius around here. Wise ass, he muttered, only to hear a snort of amusement from his brother as they left the compound and started towards town. It was early. Around 8:30, and shinobi and civilian alike were just starting to wake. They wouldn't openly glare at him because of the Anbu with him, but they had heard rumors stating that he had been killed yesterday by being chucked off the Hokage monument. Walking into a shinobi-only store with Itachi in his Anbu gear, the shop owner greeted them. "Ah, Crow-san, Hokage-sama said you would be coming round today sometime. I take it that you are here for this young man." Crow nodded and responded in a monotone voice of his Anbu counterpart, "Yes, Naruto needs some new clothes, maybe a few sets of kunai and shuriken as well." "Well, knock yourselves out, we aren't that busy in the morning, so there shouldn't be any judgmental shinobi around." He winked at Naruto and used air quotes for the word judgmental. Naruto smiled and nodded whilst walking into the shinobi clothing sector. He came back 5 minutes later wearing white, bought trousers with a kunai pouch on his right leg and a standard issue hip pouch, whilst wearing a mesh tank top with a black zip-up hoodie with orange strips going down the arms. All in all, he looked like a 5-year-old Minato. He had 5 sets of these clothes, not including the hoodie. He had 3 sets of them. He picked up a set of kunai and shuriken with a sealing scroll and went to the checkout. When it came out at a set price, he went to pay and the man said, "No need." The Hokage put it on his tab. He nodded in acceptance and made a mental note to thank the old man later. They spent the rest of the day practicing chakra control and kunai throwing. Itachi left again in the evening, but not without leaving him a bowl of cookies from their mother, obviously with one missing. That will be it for this video. If you want more, comment down below, like, subscribe. And see you guys later.